Welcome to the newspaper review segment of our show where Joseph Akable joins me. He's our court correspondent, but guess what? Last Friday, when that contempt application was being heard at the High Court, you were refused entry. I couldn't believe it.
Yes, I was comfortably seated outside, relaxing.
Was it an in-camera hearing?
No, it wasn't. And I mean, I think generally there is an approach, or there's a way people tend to view the work of the media. And so you get to a place and the place is full. This is a public interest matter. Mm-hmm. And so you would expect that at least someone can decide that maybe there's a pew that we are keeping for journalists at least to come. Because when all the journalists are there and you don't even get all supporters in, the whole world gets to know the story properly. Yeah. But if it's the other way around, it doesn't really help. And so we got in. The gentleman told me that the place was simply full and that they are sitting.
So who is this gentleman?
He's a policeman.
So this is not the sitting judge who decided that journalists should stay out.
The policeman informed us that they don't have spaces available, and so it took the intervention of one of our colleagues who kept insisting before one of us was allowed in. Then later on, as spaces were created with people exiting, we were able to make our way inside. But there is a friend of mine, Bright Kwachi. He's a lawyer. He watches this show very well. He was very helpful as well in the course of the proceedings, and he told me to say hi to you this morning. Well,
hello to you, Mr. Kwachi, as well. Thank you very much. Maybe we can make you a correspondent when they refuse the noon journalists.
I told him.
But this is what. So what are you guys doing? Because you're a group of court correspondents. I think you should petition the CJ. What do you guys say?
It's a matter we've raised many times, especially with the previous Chief Justice. Since this Chief Justice came in, this is the first time. I think generally, and like I keep saying each time it happens, when we all close from our workplace and we go home, we turn on the TV, we want to find out what is happening in the country. And it will not be the best if we are not treated as those who ought to be the first in the place, especially when it's a public interest matter. And so we expect that when you go to the places, at least you can decide, this is a matter like today, we are going back this morning. You know that obviously
I'm going to ask you about what happened to Kennedy Japan. We're going to talk about it, and I think it's in the court's interest for it to be fairly represented.
Exactly.
It is appropriate for the persons who usually come there to report to do the reporting.
I agree.
Yeah. After all, sometimes they say don't use your phone.
Yeah.
Don't even record the things. Yeah. You guys have gone through a lot. You've been through a lot with this whole court process.
I guess we will still go through a lot. I mean, it will. Hopefully, it gets to a point where people understand that. I mean, it's not because we just wake up and we just want to go to the place. It's just because of the public interest in the issues, and we want to ensure that our viewers and our listeners on radio who have interest in this matter get to know what is actually happening. And so that is why we come there, and we expect to be treated at least with some level of
But you know what, Joseph? I'm thinking that when this happens, you shouldn't just be talking to a policeman who thinks that he's overly powerful and he's standing outside the courtroom and he's telling you with the authority that he has that you can't go in. I feel like there should be somebody else on the spot that you can contact. I mean, you shouldn't be that helpless because there's one policeman who says he wouldn't allow you in.
I agree, and I mean, I must commend some of the courts in terms of how it is managed. There's one court, Justice Chebafo's court. I mean, the court, he's currently at the Court of Appeal, but when he was at the High Court, Commercial Court 7, there was a clerk he was working with for the public interest matters. When he comes, I mean, he tells us to be patient, don't worry. Once the case is called, he clears a pew and makes sure that there's a pew or two reserved for journalists, so that at least you can come in and take your seat quietly at the back where you are not disturbed and be able to pay attention and write and take notes and listen to what is happening. Yeah. So it's a bit of difference.
I think by talking about this even on television this morning, we're making an appeal to the judges. I know quite a number of them watch our show as well.
Yeah.
They should be interested in the journalists covering the story. Yeah. Because in a matter like what happened on Friday, it would be totally fair that the judge would not even know about it. Yeah. He would only hear fallout of it after the case, you know, after close of day. So they should just be interested in it and find out who the journalists are in your court and where they are seated and make room for them. Okay, let's talk about the newspapers. I haven't seen Kennedy Japan featuring. Is it because the case was on Friday? So what happened?
We are going back this morning. So on Friday.
Oh, today?
Yes, this morning. So on Friday, they played the video that went viral. This was after lots of back and forth over whether or not, you know, he has petitioned the Chief Justice, raising issues of possible bias against the judge. He's also filed an order seeking to restrain the judge from hearing the matter as well. And so he informed the judge. The judge said, okay, I'm proceeding nonetheless. And then now the judge reads the charge against him. He pleads not guilty. Then they played the video recording. The courtroom was silent. Yeah, when the video was played. And I mean, some of the things that were said, I mean, unfortunately.
So he was there in person?
Yeah, he was there. He has to be up to listen to the case against him. Unfortunately, for the contents, I mean, for good reasons, I can't repeat them. But
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Unless you want to be hauled there too.
Not at all. Not at all. So he said the things that he said in the video. And afterwards, his lawyers requested a copy of the video as well as the court records for the day. And
excuse me, is the source not his own station?
Yes, but they were actually, the point the lawyers were raising was that they say that the procedure is that the court should have written to the station to take the original copy. Oh, okay. Because the judge said he heard it on YouTube. Okay. And so their point was that it could be doctored, but the judge was making the point that, I mean, this is content that was generated from them.
Hey, Charlie, procedure. So you guys are back.
So this morning, these lawyers are supposed to respond to the case against them. Explain why the video that was played on Friday does not amount to contempt. Oh, yeah. Okay. Will he be in court himself? He has to be in court. He has to be.
What's the name of the judge again? I kind of really like it.
Justice Amos Wuni.
Okay.
Amos Wuni, yeah.
And this is outside of a land issue that he had dealt with.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, let's do the rest of the stories. We can stay with this matter for the rest of the time, but you need to know what's making headlines in the newspapers. So this is the Daily Graphic newspaper. House of Chiefs condemns secessionists, rallies support for government. The picture that comes with it is the National House of Chiefs President, Togbi Afada the 14, who's the Awomafia of the, no, not the Awomafia of the Anglo States. Nope. Okay, but that's Togbi Afada, the House of President of the House of Chiefs. But there are other chiefs who've also added their voices. I'm sure you've heard about the one leading my state, the Anglo State, Togbi Sri III. And then there's also a spokesperson for the Gbi Traditional Council, Togbi Azima V, as well as the overlord of the Alavanyo Traditional Council, Togbiga Chidi Atakra VII, who have all made separate calls, all condemning what has happened, what happened last Friday, really. Activities of Saturday group, no intelligence failure. That's according to Information Minister Kojo Opong in Nkrumah. This is NACOC, and that's the Narcotics Control Now Commission, picks suspect in cocaine haul. And I have to do the story itself so you can understand, because this happened over the weekend. Says that the Narcotics Control Commission has picked up some persons to help in its investigations after it intercepted 152 kilograms of cocaine, 15 slaps in Tema and the Greater Accra region, based on an intelligence received in a joint operation with the Bureau of National Investigations and the National Security Council Secretariat. They seized the illegal substance, which was concealed in a shipment of sugar from Brazil, and which has a street value of about $15 million. So the rest of the story, and then an understanding of the sugar consignment, the operation itself, all contained in the story. But I don't have that kind of short memory. I know what could possibly happen to what has been seized, so I'm not excited yet, because this could turn into something else, we know. Back on the phone. Baking soda. Baking soda or coconte, Charlie. Ghana, 3 others to benefit from COVID-19 private sector facility. This is a UNDP facility that we're benefiting alongside the Philippines and Colombia, I think, if I didn't get that wrong. But details of that is in the newspaper today, in the center spread of the paper. Here's a man that I used to watch on CNN with his cooking show, Parts Unknown. He's an author, a journalist, globetrotter, and I'm sure you know Anthony Bourdain. Probably have seen him. It's in the center spread what they're talking about. The reason his name comes in the story is because of the mental health conversation. It says keeping appearances, mental health of Ghanaian celebrities. So they just talked about the fact that he was going through some challenges himself. Remember, if you remember quite well how his death occurred, well, he was in the middle of a shoot. He was shooting his cooking program which I loved watching, by the way. And then we were told he hanged himself in his hotel room. And later on, there were conversations about his mental condition and the fact that he had issues that he was battling with. So the rest of the stories in the center spread. Also, illegal market sprawls at Adenta. It is now becoming a common phenomenon to find market women abandoning their shops at designated market to pitch camp along the street to sell their wares. For them, they have to get closer to customers. And as customers, we are usually also to blame because we stop anywhere to shop. Once we find the tomatoes and the pepper and the onion, we will stop. If we refuse to, they will also not be encouraged to shop where we are supposed to be walking and other things happening. On the back page, President cuts short for Wioso recycling compost plants. COVID-19 floods delay tunnel irrigation projects. Let's quickly do the finder front page. Actionable intelligence prevented dire attacks from secessionists. That's according to Kojo Ponkroma. Dr. Awal emphasizes importance of secession plan. Funding secured for all projects, President assures as he cuts sword for $116.2 million inchi to Elubo Road. Anglo Bihohoi chiefs disown and condemn secessionist group. Chief of Staff receives prestigious award. Akable?
Yes, we can start with the front page of the Daily Guide. It says Blay warns NPP against complacency. I'm talking about Freddie Blay, yes. The NPP national chairman. Nana jabs Mahama, I cut short with funds, and government won't spare Volta rebels. Audit service denies query and boost for lotto firms, also on the front page. The president opens works on 15 million euros waste plant in Western North. The back page has Akono relishes Mali test, dumps Jan, Boy and Co. And Moreno jabs Sozier also on the back page. Limitless polo tourney pulls massive crowd, and sex toys shirt sponsorship approved. Also.
Excuse me?
Sex toys shirt sponsorship approved. So there is an Eredivisie site, that's the Dutch league, that they will play the 2020-21 season with a company that sells sex toys. And so initially some concerns.
Hey, this is so unrelated, as if they're going to produce sex toys for the club.
No, but they were, they put the ad on there, and kids and everyone watches football. And so concerns were raised initially. So initially the idea was rejected on the grounds that it was against their code of values. But the team will now, that's MN, will now be allowed to wear shirts sponsored by Easy Toys and will debut the shirts in the clash with Willem II. The sponsor is important for the club, the chairman said. Yeah, certainly important, not the toys, the money. Yeah, but that is it for the Daily Guide. Let me see whether there's an interesting cartoon here for us today. Okay, this one is about the cool memories. Okay, you can check that one out. Yeah, interesting. We can do the front page of the Ghanaian Times now. The Ghanaian Times says Volta region chiefs film at secessionist groups call for swift government action, and 40 young business owners ended in Accra. A president cut short for construction of recycling plant in Abuenidua. Animal without tail. I see. 152 kilograms of cocaine intercepted at Tema on page 3 of the Ghanaian Times. And the same page 3 has a story about 2 mobile phone thieves in trouble. Very interesting story. The gentlemen were in a car with a lady, and we are told when the lady was about to alight, she couldn't open the door. So one of the gentlemen came to help her open the door. Then after she got down, she realized that the phone was not in her bag anymore. So she tried to stop the taxi driver who sped off. But the residents were able to, how Ghana roads are, traffic and everything. So they pursued the car on foot, and they managed to cross and surround the car and pull them from the car and handed them over to the police.
Including the driver. He's also
including the driver. So he's a suspect with the other gentleman who was in the car.
That's nice. When you're not a gentleman and you pretend to be, this is a classic case.
A classic case. So it's actually an iPhone 11 Pro that they stole. Yeah. So they are in the custody of the Accra Region Police, and they've been processed for court.
I had a funny story recently about a lady who felt jealous because he would see his colleague who would arrive in the office and the husband would open the door, the car door for her. And this was like a continuous something that he saw. So he felt, oh, your husband is so romantic. What she didn't know was that the car door actually had a problem. So this the woman couldn't open the door by
from
herself.
The inside. Oh, I see.
So the husband had to do it, not because he was so romantic.
Yeah.
So, you know, whatever you have, just cherish it, okay?
You never know. Okay, so the back page has this story about some 40 young business owners who have been honored in Accra, and Center to provide advisory services to businesses in Obuasi inaugurated. It's on the back page of the Ghanaian Times. That is it for the Ghanaian Times and the Daily Guide.
Let's do the Daily Dispatch. Focus on Ayawaso West Wagon, Greater Accra. I got this question over there. Somebody asked me a very hard question. Like I can see the results in the 2020 parliamentary elections. Person asked, do you think John Dumelo can win the seat? Do you think John Dumelo can win? And I was beginning to analyze the weights of the sitting member of parliament and how I know she was even involved in her late husband's campaign. And so I had to pause a bit. I don't know. I think that was my final answer. But there's a focus. If you're asking the same question, can Dumelo win where 5 NDC candidates have failed? It's a very big question, but we know that John has also been very innovative. And he's been doing stuff with the students particularly. And he's been going to the other areas. You know, Ayawaso West Wagon is a beautiful constituency. There is a portion, a large portion. It's sophisticated, has high class. People who will be interested, I guess, if I was living there, I'll be interested in the road, I'll be interested in electricity, water, I'll be interested in security. Those are, I guess, the big issues. But there's also another area that people are concerned about, all the basic things, toilets, you know, all the things that you can think about. There's poverty. So I'm not sure, like, I don't know.
Except that, I mean, the people you are talking about in the second case, they are in the minority. And that is why, how come 5 people have already failed before him. And so, like you said, he's a different personality. He's not your typical politician.
Yes.
His approach is different. He's a popular figure.
Yes.
And so it will be a tough race for him. Can he win is a big question to ask. I think
Can Lydia retain?
I think she has the advantage because it's 5 NDC candidates. It's a safe seat for the MPP as it stands. And so John Dumelo has a lot of work to do in order to win the seat. And that's how come he's working at this hard. But it's one of the seats that you need to look out for in December.
Absolutely. Well, you can find out how the Dispatch is also analyzing this question in the paper today. Also, 13 Western Togolanders shot. Abu Sakara on National Interest Movement, People's Charter. Focus on population and composition in Greater Accra and Ashanti regions. Kwatson on Ghanaian media and civil society. That's Mr. KB Kwatson. If you're interested in what you've heard, what you've seen, you can grab the Daily Dispatch. Let's do the Republic. The Republic Press, front page. Government denies security failure in Western Togoland secessionist attacks. Those who've got expertise and security, when they're analyzing, and I monitored news file on Saturday. Professor Enin, for instance, describes what happened as a success because they went through a lot. And if we had the intelligence that we claim that we did, why did we allow them to go that far? Why did it take us that long to coil what had happened?
The press conference by the information minister, I mean, very interesting revelations. He says the intelligence they picked actually points that they intended to take their number of, so there is the pond dam, they wanted to take control of it. They wanted to actually blow it up, he says. He also talks about the market that they wanted to burn down, as well as some other key installations. And so his argument was that they were able to foil those ones. But Professor Enin makes the argument that these are individuals who were able to seize a police station. They entered the armory, took 10 AK-47 assault rifles. They finished and seized vehicles and actually drove some of the police vehicles. I've seen a video. They drove the vehicle from the police station with their flag on top. They were singing and cheering. They finished and went to some major roads to block the roads using blocks that they loaded in vehicles and took over there. And so he says that obviously is success for you. And the Volta regional minister tells us that the groups are now 3 actually. And the 3 groups broke from the main Homeland Study group that we know. And he says the 3 splinter groups are actually more militarized. They have arms and they are more daring compared to the others who will just be declaring independence and singing and waving flags. These guys are violent, and that's the situation we have on our hand. And government says that they've been able to identify the source of funding, and in the coming days, the security agencies will actually put out the names, the pictures of the individuals who are the sponsors of this group and the main promoters of this.
I worry. You know why I worry and why I'm not confident in all that you've narrated? Because we've had these guys before.
Yeah.
We haven't successfully prosecuted them. In fact, we let them go, even though we say, well, some of them prosecution is continuing. But we haven't, I'm not sure we've shown, and you can correct me, we've shown seriousness with this matter in the past.
We haven't.
In terms of prosecuting them. So if you have all this information that you are now telling me, what have you done with it? If you haven't done anything with it, then I'm sorry, it doesn't really mean anything to me. So you know the existence, you know there are 3 groups, what have you done? Yeah. How have you stopped them from? And then you say, oh, they are not, this is like a very small group. How come they were able to do what they did? And we're just watching them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't give me confidence. And so, and I had some people from the Volta region call me and, you know, like, Sally, what's happening? These people, what are they doing? You know, to us as if everybody is in it on this. And this is a very small group. So why are we letting them play with us like that? And we're a whole nation. We're a whole sovereign state. And then you come back and show us the force that you have. Like, yeah, you haven't been able to do anything.
Professor Inini spoke about that actually. You know, there was a video of the dogs, the sniffer dogs who were being held by the police and walking through town. Professor Inini's response was that, what are they sniffing? Says it's too late in the day. Those are Professor Kwesi's words. I mean, he's the security analyst.
But that's classic. Can you ask again? All right, let's do the other story in the Republic, and then we'll go to myjoyonline.com. This is interesting. Amase dumps MPP. Remember Amase? She's the sitting member of parliament for Akwetia. She wants to go independent, and that's because, you know, she had actually raised concerns during the primaries where she polled, was it 223, and then her contender had 227. So this was a very close contest, and she had raised issues with the whole process. And I'm not sure how that was resolved, really, because she was very dissatisfied.
A couple of weeks back, some residents demonstrated they wanted her to run independent. You know, the Akwetia seat was a seat that Baba Jama held on to for quite a while. And so the MPP was not able to win a seat. Then this hairdresser shows up and wins the primaries and goes a step further to win the seat for the MPP. And so she's a strong, a formidable candidate. Then the expectation is that she'll be protected, or at least, she wins the primaries retained by the constituents, the delegates, because she's someone who has done what the party couldn't do. Then all of a sudden, she loses the election at the primary level. And so, the people feel like, this is a candidate who is strong in the constituency, who can actually retain the seat. And so they massed up on the streets and urged her to contest independence. And the early the MPP as a party is able to resolve this, the better for them, because
the NDC... Is it not too late, perhaps? Because, you know, she wanted a recount of the ballots, but that was rejected.
Well, sometimes there's a way of reaching out to people. We've seen, I know of a seat somewhere in the northern region where the current MP was made to step down and not contest in the primaries. It's negotiation. You talk to people because you want to bring someone else. There's a way of going about it just to ensure that, in fact, if to be blunt, there are instances where people are made, they are given offers that, when we win, we'll make you a minister here, we'll make you a deputy minister here. So you relax, we want this person to go. You talk behind the stage and try to convince people. Because as it stands, should she contest as an independent candidate, it will affect the vote. And this is what happened in 2008. That is how come at the end of the first round, the NDC had the majority, because a lot of the MP people had gone independent and it affected their votes. And even though their flag bearer was leading at the end of round 1, going into round 2, everyone said that, look, we don't want to have a situation where the government in power does not have majority in parliament. So let's vote a certain way.
When we talk about Amase, it brings back a lot of memories.
Yeah,
shall we remind ourselves?
You to flow.
Yes, shall we? in Parliament?
House Committee and Social Welfare and Employment.
Let's talk about the speech you delivered on the 6th of March and how people are receiving it, basically ridiculing the statement that you made. How do you feel about that?
I'm very sad that people are laughing at me. But I'm proud of myself.
If you had the opportunity, would you change anything about either yourself or the speech that you made?
Oh, me, Mrs. Safi, I will not change anything.
Okay. When would we see you actively participating on the floor of Parliament?
April. By April, I will flow.
Surely, I believe that by April she will flow. I'm personally proud of her. She's done very well.
Akufo, which year, please? 3 years ago. Hey, and the way people finished me, particularly the MPP, and they didn't even know the background of this conversation. Someday, if I want to react, I'll tell the story.
I was actually paying attention to how you looked in that video. I'm sure. I mean, our lines activated. They should send us messages. Tell us about how Mama V looked 3 years ago. Yeah, that's Mama V.
Listen, the reason I locked my hair, I really didn't know what to do with my hair. I mean, I was just playing with it, cut it sometimes, do whatever. Yeah, but that's my story. I love it, actually. So yeah, I must say has come a very long way, and she's a very strong person on the ground.
Yeah.
Also because of her husband, there are so many things that I've come to learn about her. She'll cause havoc if the MPP doesn't restore this. There's plenty of stories on myjoyonline.com. We'll leave the review here. Joseph Akable, you are in courts.
Yes.
Make sure no policeman prevents you from entering that courtroom. But there's also social distancing,
the policeman,
right?
Yeah, there's social distancing in the court.
So, by you journalists, out of all the cases that they are doing, you're not interested in any of them. You all came for Kennedy Japan.
The policemen were not in their numbers in all the courtrooms, except that one. We are going where they are.
We plead with the judge to be interested in our journalists because they will tell us what you don't want anybody misrepresenting you, and that's why you need the right people to report the case. So we hope that it will be smooth for you today, Joseph.
Yeah.
We've got Reiko Ampofo who was looking at the video of me interviewing Amase, and then he came to look at me in person in the studio, like checking me out. I have come a long way, Masa. He's coming up next with sports. And my new club was in action, absolutely making me proud. And Leeds as well. So, you know, there's lots of things to talk about. Stay with us.